"You're fine, walk it off," my father growled while I curled in agony. My brother smirked. "She's just begging for attention." And Mom went further. "She'll do anything to ruin a quiet weekend." Then I blacked out. The paramedic scanned me, paused, and said to them, "Call a lawyer," the MRI showed. This isn't just a story about falling down the stairs. It's about the moment an entire family's cruel life finally shattered, revealing a truth etched in my bones and scarring my soul. For 17 years, every accident, every bruise, was dismissed as just clumsy Olivia, but this time, the fall was different. This time, I couldn't get up, and the world finally had to see what they'd all ignored. My parents, they'd always told people I was accident-prone. "Oh, that's just our Olivia, always having mishaps." But my memories? They held a different story, a chilling diary of 17 years of accidents mapped out on my very skeleton. That day, when my brother Tyler pushed me down the stairs, he probably didn't mean to paralyze me. For him, it was just another one of his sick jokes, another moment everyone would simply laugh off. Except this time, there was a video. This time, the doctors called the police. And this time, I didn't get back up and pretend everything was fine. It's wild, isn't it? How one single shove can bring down a whole house of cards, a whole family's worth of lies. Picture this lake house. It was something out of a magazine, all warm wooden beams and huge windows sparkling in the afternoon sun. From the outside, it screamed perfect family getaway. But inside, 17-year-old me was doing what I always did, trying to melt into the living room couch, to just become invisible, while my extended family roared with loud conversation and laughter. "Olivia, stop sulking in the corner." My mom, Jennifer, called out, not even looking my way. "Come help set the table." I pushed myself up slowly, keeping my eyes fixed on the floor. Years of these gatherings had taught me the survival rules. Stay quiet, stay helpful, and for the love of God, stay out of Tyler's way. My 19-year-old brother was holding court by the fireplace, spinning some fraternity tale that had our uncles bellowing with laughter. As I passed, his eyes snagged mine, and that charming smile of his shifted, just a fraction. That tiny change in his expression? It sent a cold knot of dread straight to my stomach. "There she goes," Tyler boomed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Watch out, everyone. Olivia's on the move. Better secure your valuables." A few relatives chuckled, and I just kept walking towards the kitchen, my face burning. "Remember last Christmas," he continued, warming to his audience, "when she knocked over Grandma's china cabinet? Cost Dad what? $3,000 to replace everything. It was an accident," I mumbled, not bothering to turn around. "What was the point?" "Everything's an accident with you," he shot back. "That's why we can't have nice things." My father, Robert, actually laughed from his armchair. "Tyler, leave your sister alone. You know how sensitive she gets." Sensitive. The word hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I'd heard it my entire life. Sensitive. Dramatic. Difficult. They were the convenient labels they used to make me the problem, to avoid confronting the twisted reality of our home. In the kitchen, I found my Aunt Susan arranging appetizers. She gave me a small, sad smile, the kind that said she understood but would never actually say anything. Nobody ever did. "Could you take these to the dining room?" she asked, her voice gentle. I nodded, grateful for the task, for anything that gave me a purpose and a distraction. I carried the platter like it was made of glass, acutely aware of Tyler's eyes tracking me from across the room, just waiting for me to stumble, to drop something. I made it to the table without a hitch, starting to arrange plates. "Kids these days," I heard my Uncle Pete saying to Tyler. "When I was in college, we knew how to have real fun. None of this social media nonsense." "Oh, we have plenty of fun," Tyler said, his voice laced with that edge I knew too well. "Right, Liv? Tell Uncle Pete about all the fun you have at school." I froze. I never knew the right answer. If I said I had friends, he'd mock me for lying. If I admitted I mostly kept to myself, he'd call me a loser in front of everyone. He answered for me, naturally. "She doesn't really do the social thing. More of a library ghost. Probably why she's so pale." "Tyler," my mom said mildly, not even looking up from her phone. "Be nice to your sister." No real warning in her voice, though. Never any real warning. The afternoon dragged on, a slow, painful torture. We played board games, and I tried to participate just enough to avoid attention, but Tyler, he was relentless, finding new ways to needle me. When I won a round of Trivial Pursuit, he accused me of cheating. When I got up to use the bathroom, he commented on how I always ran away when things got competitive. By evening, the atmosphere in the house had shifted. The adults had been drinking since lunch, their laughter louder, their conversations slurring, and the younger cousins were getting cranky. I saw my chance to escape during a particularly heated game of Monopoly. Tyler had just bankrupted our cousin and was gloating loudly when I quietly stood up. "Where are you going?" Tyler's voice cut through the celebratory noise. "Just upstairs for a minute," I said, already moving towards the staircase. Running away again. He was on his feet now, following. Typical Olivia. Can't handle a little competition. "I'm just tired, Tyler." "You're always tired or sick or something." He was right behind me now as I reached the staircase landing, his presence a physical weight. It's pathetic. I tried to move past him, but he stepped directly in front of me, blocking the way. He was so much bigger than me, had been ever since his growth spurt at 14. Now, at 19, home from his sophomore year of college, he seemed to take up even more space, radiating a menacing energy. "Tyler, please move." "Or what?" He spread his arms wide, a taunting grin on his face. "I'm protecting the kingdom from the dragon. You can't pass." It was such a childish game, something from when we were little. But there was nothing playful in his eyes now. I tried to duck under his arm, and that's when it happened. His hands connected with my shoulders. Hard. It wasn't just a push, it was a shove, the kind that sent me backward with real, bone-jarring force. I saw his face change as I fell, a flicker of something that might have been surprise, or maybe even fear. Then I was tumbling, my body hitting the stairs at a terrible angle, my back twisting as I desperately tried to catch myself. I heard the crack before I felt it. A sound like a branch snapping. Then I was at the bottom of the stairs, and the pain arrived all at once, a searing, white-hot explosion. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only lie there, staring at the ceiling as footsteps thundered above me. What happened? That was my mom's voice, sharp with annoyance, not concern. "She fell," Tyler said quickly, too quickly. "She just fell." I tried to speak, tried to scream that wasn't what happened, but I couldn't get enough air. My back felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. "For God's sake." My father's voice boomed from the top of the stairs. "Olivia, get up. You're making a scene." I tried. I really did. But when I attempted to move my legs, nothing happened. The panic that flooded through me was worse than the pain. "I can't," I whispered, the words barely audible. "What do you mean you can't?" My mom was coming down the stairs now, her heels clicking, her movements careful, detached. "Stop being dramatic." "Mom, I can't move my legs." There was a moment of terrifying silence. Then my father laughed. Actually laughed. "She's fine. She's always pulling stunts like this for attention." Tyler appeared at the edge of my vision, his face pale, unnaturally still. "It was just a joke," he said. But he was talking to them, to our parents, not to me. "I didn't push her that hard." "So, you did push her?" Aunt Susan's voice, firm and clear, cut through the tension from somewhere I couldn't see. "Not like that," Tyler said defensively. "We were just messing around." "She needs a hospital," Susan said, her voice unwavering. "She needs to stop being so dramatic." Robert countered, his voice booming. "Olivia, seriously, get up. You're embarrassing yourself." The extended family had gathered now, a morbid circle of faces looking down at me. Some concerned, some annoyed, most just incredibly uncomfortable. The little cousins were being ushered away. Someone was saying something about ruining the evening. I closed my eyes, tears sliding down my temples, pooling in my hair. I could hear them talking about me around me, but never to me, never really seeing me. I was a problem to be solved, an inconvenience to be managed. And now I couldn't feel my legs, and they still didn't believe me. "Come on, sweetheart. Try to sit up." My mother's voice had shifted to the fake sweetness she reserved for public performance. They had an audience now, and Jennifer Harrison never looked bad in front of an audience. I tried again, pushing myself up with my arms, but the movement sent a lightning bolt of agony through my spine. I screamed, couldn't help it, and fell back, my body hitting the floor with a sickening thud. "Jesus Christ," my father muttered. "Tyler, help your sister up." Tyler moved forward, reluctantly, reaching for my arms. "Come on, Liv. Stop being weird. Don't touch me." The words came out louder, sharper than I intended, raw with fear and anger. Tyler jerked back like he'd been slapped. "I was trying to help," he said, his voice rising, defensive. "It was just a joke, okay? I didn't mean for you to fall like that." "You pushed me," I said, my voice shaking uncontrollably. "I was playing around." Tyler's face was red now, his own fear twisting into anger. "You're the one who's clumsy. You're always falling over stuff." "That's true," my mother chimed in quickly, always his defender. "Remember when she fell off her bike last summer? And that time at school when she tripped in the cafeteria?" I wanted to scream that those weren't accidents either, that Tyler had loosened my bike chain, that he'd tripped me in the cafeteria. But what was the point? They never believed me. They never wanted to believe me. "We should call an ambulance," Aunt Susan said again, her phone already in her hand. "Absolutely not," Robert said firmly. "We're not wasting emergency services on a teenager's tantrum." "Robert, she says she can't move her legs," Susan argued, her voice rising in disbelief. "She's lying," he said flatly. "Or exaggerating. She always does this." Time passed strangely after that. I lay on the floor while the family debated above me, debating me. Someone suggested moving me to the couch, but when they tried, the pain was so intense I nearly passed out. Eventually, they just left me there, throwing a blanket over me like I was a piece of broken furniture they didn't know what to do with. The party, incredibly, continued around me. I could hear them in the dining room, the clink of silverware, the murmur of conversation. They were eating dinner while I lay on the floor. The numbness in my legs was spreading, a cold, terrifying sensation creeping up from my lower back. I tried wiggling my toes, concentrating all my effort on it, but nothing. My 8-year-old cousin, Emma, snuck over to me while the adults were distracted. Emma was a quiet kid with huge brown eyes who rarely spoke at family gatherings. "Olivia," she whispered, kneeling beside me, her voice tiny. "Are you really hurt?" "Yes," I whispered back, my voice cracking. "Why won't they help you?" I didn't know how to answer that. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most? "Can you stay with me?" I asked instead. Emma nodded, her small hand reaching out to hold mine. She just sat there, cross-legged beside me, occasionally stroking my hair, a maternal gesture I'd never received from my own mother. "This is ridiculous," I heard my Uncle Mark saying from the dining room. "The girl needs medical attention." "She's fine," Robert insisted. "Trust me, I know my daughter. This is what she does." "What she does is lie on floors paralyzed?" Mark's wife, Caroline, asked sarcastically, her voice dripping with incredulity. "She's not paralyzed," Jennifer said sharply. "She's being dramatic. She's always been jealous of Tyler, always trying to get him in trouble." "By throwing herself down the stairs?" Caroline's voice was incredulous. "You don't know her like we do," Robert said with finality, cutting off further discussion. "She's manipulative. Has been since she was little." I felt Emma's hand tighten in mine. Even an 8-year-old could recognize gaslighting when she heard it. The argument continued, swirling around me like a hurricane, until Caroline stood up from the dinner table and announced she was calling 911. "You do that," Robert threatened, his voice low and dangerous, "and you're not welcome in this house again." "Fine by me," Caroline shot back, her phone already at her ear. The room erupted. Robert was shouting about lawsuits and family loyalty. Jennifer was crying hysterically about how Caroline was ruining everything. Tyler kept repeating it was just a joke, over and over like a broken record, a mantra to deflect the truth. When the paramedics arrived 15 minutes later, the house fell silent, a stunned quiet settling over the chaos. 2 EMTs, a man and a woman, entered with a professional calm that cut through the family drama like a knife. Hi there, the woman said, kneeling beside me. Her eyes were kind. I'm Rachel. What's your name? Olivia. My voice was a shaky whisper. Hi, Olivia. Can you tell me what happened? She fell, Jennifer said quickly, before I could answer. She's clumsy, falls all the time. Rachel didn't even look at Jennifer. Her eyes stayed on me. Can you tell me what happened? I was pushed, I said quietly, finding a sliver of courage, down the stairs. She's confused, Robert interjected, trying to dismiss my words. They were playing around, kids being kids. The male paramedic was already examining me, his hands gentle but thorough. Can you feel this? He asked, lightly touching my legs. No. He exchanged a look with Rachel, a silent, knowing communication. We need to transport her immediately. This is unnecessary, Jennifer protested. She's just bruised, maybe pulled a muscle. Rachel stood up slowly and turned to face my parents. Ma'am, your daughter is showing signs of potential spinal injury. She needs immediate medical attention. She's faking, Robert said flatly, his voice chillingly devoid of emotion. The male paramedic was checking my back now, carefully lifting my shirt. He went completely still. Rachel, he said quietly. You need to see this. Rachel moved around to look, and her expression hardened, a clear shift from professional calm to something more grave. I couldn't see what they were looking at, but I could guess. The bruises. Old ones and new ones. The unspoken map of Tyler's jokes written on my skin. We're transporting now, Rachel said, her voice different now, colder, harder. And we'll need someone to come with us to answer some questions. I'll come, Jennifer said quickly, grabbing her purse, ever the performer. Rachel looked at her for a long, piercing moment. Actually, we'll need both parents. Hospital policy. As they loaded me onto the stretcher, I heard Rachel speaking quietly into her radio. Most of it was medical jargon I didn't understand, but I caught the last part clearly, requesting police presence at the hospital. Possible child abuse situation. Tyler's face appeared above me as they wheeled me towards the ambulance. He looked scared now. Genuinely, truly scared. Liv, he whispered urgently, his voice strained. Don't say anything stupid, okay? It was just a joke, you know. It was just a joke. But I was done pretending. Done protecting him. Done being silent. As they lifted me into the ambulance, I looked him straight in the eye and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, no, Tyler. It wasn't. The hospital was a blur of white walls and bright lights. I was rushed through corridors, medical staff calling out terms I didn't understand. The pain medication they'd given me in the ambulance made everything feel distant and dreamlike, but I could still feel the heavy weight of what was happening. 17-year-old female, fell downstairs approximately 3 hours ago, Rachel was saying to the emergency room doctor. Possible spinal trauma, unable to move lower extremities, multiple contusions in various stages of healing observed on back and torso. The doctor, a woman with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, leaned over me. I'm Dr. Brett Patel. We're going to take good care of you, okay? I nodded, or tried to. They put my neck in a brace, and any movement was difficult, painful. We need to get her to imaging immediately, Dr. Patel said. Full spinal series, and I want a complete body scan. My parents, I whispered, suddenly remembering them. They're here, a nurse said gently. They're in the waiting room. As they wheeled me toward the MRI suite, I could hear my mother's voice, carrying down the hallway, sharp and shrill. This is ridiculous. She's fine. This is all a misunderstanding. The MRI room was cold and sterile. The technician, a young man named James, explained everything he was doing as he positioned me. This is going to be loud, he said kindly. Like really loud construction noise. But I'll be right here the whole time, and you can talk to me through the intercom if you need anything. A nurse stayed with me, holding my hand as they slid me into the machine. Her touch was gentle, maternal in a way my own mother's had never been. You're very brave, the nurse whispered just before the machine started. The MRI seemed to last forever, the banging and clicking sounds reverberating through my bones. I closed my eyes and tried to think of anything else, but my mind kept returning to Tyler's face, to that moment of surprise when I'd fallen. Like even he hadn't expected it to go that far. When it was over, James helped transfer me to a regular hospital bed. His face was carefully neutral, but I saw him exchange a look with the nurse. "The doctor will be in to talk to you soon," he said, but something in his voice had changed. Alone in the room for the first time, I could hear my parents in the hallway again. My mother was demanding to speak to the doctor privately. "I need to know what she's telling people," Jennifer was saying. "She has a tendency to exaggerate." "Ma'am, your daughter has a serious injury," someone responded calmly. "She's always been clumsy," my father's voice joined in. "This is probably costing thousands of dollars for nothing." My phone buzzed on the bedside table. The nurse had salvaged it from my pocket. I looked at the screen and my stomach clenched. A text from Tyler. Asterisk, "Don't say anything stupid." It was a joke. "You know how mom and dad get. Don't make this worse than it is." Asterisk, then another. Asterisk, "I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean for you to get hurt." Asterisk, and another. "If you tell them I did it on purpose, you'll destroy our family." I was still staring at the messages when Dr. Patel returned. And this time, she wasn't alone. The technician was with her, and they both looked grave. "Olivia," Dr. Patel said, pulling a chair up beside the bed. "I need to talk to you about what we found." "Am I paralyzed?" The word came out as barely a whisper, a stark terror in my throat. "No," Dr. Patel said quickly, mercifully. "The good news is that while you have a compression fracture in your L3 vertebra, your spinal cord is intact. With treatment and physical therapy, you should regain full mobility." Relief, so overwhelming it almost made me sob, flooded through me. But the doctor's expression didn't change. However, Dr. Patel continued. "The MRI showed something else, something concerning." She pulled up images on a tablet, showing them to me. They looked like ghostly white pictures of bones. "These are your ribs," she said, pointing. "This fracture here is fresh, from today. But these..." She pointed to several other areas. "These are older, in different stages of healing. This one is maybe 2 months old. This one, perhaps 6 months." I stared at the images. Evidence. Finally, concrete evidence that I wasn't crazy, wasn't dramatic, wasn't making things up. "There's also this," Dr. Patel continued, showing another image. "Damage to your T7 vertebra that's at least a year old. Olivia, these injuries, they paint a picture of repeated trauma. Can you tell me how they happened?" The room felt very quiet suddenly. I could hear my heart monitor beeping, could hear voices in the hallway, but it all seemed very far away. "My brother," I said finally, the words a raw confession. "Tyler, he likes to play rough." "Play rough how?" And suddenly, it was all spilling out. The pushing, the shoving, the accidents that weren't accidents. The time he'd pushed me off my bike and I'd ended up with a concussion. The time he'd locked me outside in the snow in just my pajamas. The time he'd held my head underwater in the pool until I'd nearly drowned. Then told everyone I'd been showing off and gotten in over my head. Dr. Patel listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her tablet. When I finished, the doctor was quiet for a moment. "Olivia, what you're describing is abuse. Physical abuse. And from these scans, it's been going on for a long time. My parents say I'm clumsy," I said automatically, the old defense mechanism kicking in. "You're not clumsy," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "You're being hurt. And from what I'm seeing here, you've been being hurt for years." There was a knock on the door, and a nurse poked her head in. "Doctor, the parents are insisting on seeing their daughter." "Not yet," Dr. Patel said firmly. "I need to make some calls first." She turned back to me. "I've asked hospital security to contact the police. Someone needs to document this properly. Is that okay?" I nodded, feeling something shift inside my chest. For the first time in my life, someone believed me. Someone saw what was happening and called it what it was. My parents must have forced their way past the nurses because suddenly they were in the room. My mother's face was flushed with anger. My father's jaw clenched tight. "What are you telling them?" Jennifer demanded, her voice shrill. "What lies are you spreading?" "Mrs. Harrison," Dr. Patel said, standing up, her demeanor calm but unyielding. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. She's my daughter. I have every right to be here. Your daughter is 17 and has disclosed abuse." Hospital policy requires abuse. Robert's voice was dangerous, barely contained rage. She fell down the stairs. If she's saying anything else, she's lying. The medical evidence suggests otherwise, Dr. Patel said calmly. Medical evidence? Jennifer laughed, but it sounded hysterical, bordering on madness. She's clumsy. She's always been clumsy. Tell them, Olivia, tell them about all your accidents. But before I could respond, 2 hospital security guards appeared in the doorway, along with a police officer. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, the officer said, his voice quiet but commanding. I'm Officer Thompson. I need to speak with you and your son. Is he here? This is insane, Robert shouted. We're not talking to anyone without a lawyer. That's your right, Officer Thompson said, his gaze steady. But I'll need you to come with me now. We have some questions about your daughter's injuries. Jennifer turned to me, and for a moment, her carefully constructed mask slipped completely. The look she gave me wasn't motherly concern, or even anger. It was pure, distilled hatred. You're destroying this family, she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. No, I said, finding my voice steady and strong for the first time. Tyler did that. And you let him. Officer Thompson escorted my parents out, but not before I heard him say something that made my heart race, a small spark of satisfaction igniting within me. We're also going to need to speak with Tyler Harrison. Is he in the waiting room? Dr. Patel sat back down beside my bed. You did the right thing, she said gently. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did the right thing. I looked at the MRI images still displayed on the tablet. All those old fractures, all that hidden damage, finally visible. The truth literally written in my bones. What happens now? I asked. Now we make sure you're safe, Dr. Patel said, and we make sure this never happens again. Through the door, I could hear commotion in the hallway. Tyler's voice, loud and defensive. It was just a joke. I didn't mean to hurt her. She's always been dramatic. Then Officer Thompson's voice, calm but firm. Mr. Harrison, I'm going to need you to come with me. For years, I had been falling and no one had caught me. But here, finally, someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs, ready to help me back up. The MRI hadn't just shown my injuries. It had shown the truth. And the truth, after all this time, was finally setting me free. The hospital hallway had become a battlefield. Through my door, I could hear my mother's voice rising to a pitch I'd only heard a few times before, when Jennifer Harrison's carefully constructed image was truly threatened. You can't just take my son, she was practically screaming. He's a good boy. He's in college. He has a future. Ma'am, he's 19 years old. Officer Thompson's voice was steady, unwavering. He's an adult, and we need to ask him some questions about your daughter's injuries. It was an accident. Tyler's voice cracked. I already told you. We were just messing around. I pulled the thin hospital blanket up to my chin, trying to block out the chaos. A soft knock on my door made me look up. A woman in her 40s with gentle eyes and a professional blazer entered. Hi, Olivia. I'm Sarah Mitchell from Child Protective Services. Even though you're 17, we're involved because there are younger children who visit your home. May I sit? I nodded. Sarah pulled up a chair, her movements calm and deliberate. I know you've already told your story to Dr. Patel, but I need to hear it from you. And I need to know about your cousin Emma and any other children who spend time at your house. Emma's safe, I said quickly. Tyler only does this to me. Why do you think that is? I had never really thought about it before. I guess I was the only one who ever said no to him. When we were kids, I wouldn't let him copy my homework, wouldn't cover for him when he broke things. He called me a snitch. Sarah made notes in a small notebook. And your parents? They think he's perfect. He's the athlete, the popular one, the one going to a good college. I trailed off. You're just what? She asked, her gaze kind. The problem? The difficult one, the one who ruins things by existing. Before Sarah could respond, the door burst open. Robert Harrison stood there, his face red with rage, a man in an expensive suit beside him. This is David Kramer, our attorney, Robert announced, his voice booming. Olivia, you're not to say another word to anyone without him present. Mr. Harrison, Sarah said calmly, standing up. Your daughter is giving a statement about her injuries. She has the right to speak freely. She's a minor, the lawyer said smoothly, his voice practiced. And as her parents, my clients have the right to be present for any questioning. Actually, Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway, a force to be reckoned with. Olivia is 17, and in the state of Colorado, she can make her own medical decisions and speak to authorities about abuse without parental consent. Abuse? Robert's voice was dangerous, threatening. My son pushed his sister during a game. Siblings fight. That's not abuse. Mr. Harrison, Officer Thompson had returned. We've just reviewed the text messages your son sent to your daughter after the incident. Messages where he admits to pushing her and tells her not to say anything. We're placing Tyler under arrest for assault. The explosion was immediate. Jennifer began sobbing dramatically, theatrically. Robert was shouting about lawsuits and the lawyer was making threats about false arrest. But through it all, I heard Tyler's voice from the hallway. Desperate. She made me do it. She's always provoking me. She knows how to push my buttons. That's enough, Tyler. Another officer's voice. You have the right to remain silent. The words faded as they led him away. Jennifer rushed after them, her heels clicking on the hospital floor. Robert lingered, staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a cold, empty fury. You've destroyed everything, he said quietly, his voice tight with venom. Your brother's future, our family's reputation, everything we've built. For what? Attention? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping me. No. For the truth, I corrected myself, surprised by the steady strength in my own voice. He left without another word. Sarah stayed with me for another hour, asking careful questions about the home environment, about patterns of behavior, about the times I had tried to tell someone and been dismissed. When she finally left, she squeezed my hand. You're very brave, she said, her eyes warm. And you're not alone anymore. That evening, Aunt Susan snuck into my room after visiting hours, looking around nervously. I had to use my hospital volunteer badge to get in, she admitted, sitting on the edge of my bed. Your parents have you on a no-visitor list, except for them and their lawyer. Why are you here? I asked, genuinely curious. Susan had always been kind, but had never intervened before. Because I should have done this years ago. Susan's eyes filled with tears. I knew something was wrong. The bruises you always had, the way you flinched when Tyler came near you, the way your parents always dismissed your injuries. I knew, and I said nothing because I didn't want to cause drama in the family. It wouldn't have mattered, I said, a hollow ache in my chest. They wouldn't have believed you either. Maybe not, but I should have tried. Susan pulled out her phone. I've been taking pictures at family gatherings for years. Going through them last night, I found something. She showed me the screen. It was a photo from last summer's 4th of July party. In the background, barely visible, Tyler had his hand on my arm, gripping hard enough that, even in the blurry background, you could see the whites of his knuckles. There are more, Susan said. Christmas 2 years ago, there's one where you have a black eye that your mom said was from walking into a door. Your cousin's birthday party where you're wearing long sleeves in 90-degree weather. I'm giving these to the police. They'll never forgive you, I warned. Good, Susan said firmly, a fierce resolve in her eyes. I don't want their forgiveness. The next morning brought a new complication. Jennifer arrived with a different strategy, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Sweetheart, she said, reaching for my hand. I instinctively pulled away. I know you're confused and hurt. The medication they have you on, it can make you remember things differently. The MRI doesn't lie, Mom. Jennifer's expression flickered. Those old injuries, they were from your clumsiness. Remember when you fell off your bike? When you tripped at school? Tyler loosened my bike chain. He tripped me at school. You can't prove that, Jennifer said, and there was something triumphant in her voice. It's your word against his. And, sweetheart, who do you think people will believe? The star athlete with a bright future, or the troubled girl who's been in therapy for anxiety and depression? My heart sank. I had been in therapy briefly, until my parents decided it was making me worse and pulled me out. The medical evidence, I started. Shows injuries that could have come from anywhere, Jennifer interrupted smoothly. Our lawyer says without proof that Tyler caused them intentionally, it's just unfortunate accidents. She leaned closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume. Come home, Jennifer whispered, her voice a cruel caress. Tell them you were confused, that it was an accident. Tyler will apologize. We'll get you the best physical therapy, and everything can go back to normal. Normal. I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter, broken sound. Normal was being afraid in my own home. Normal was being called clumsy and dramatic when I was being hurt. Normal was you choosing him over me every single time. Jennifer stood up, smoothing her skirt, her face hardening. You have until tomorrow to decide. After that, you're on your own. No college fund, no health insurance after you turn 18. Nothing. You'll be just another sad story. Alone and broken. After she left, I lay in the dark, tears sliding down my face. They were right about one thing. It would be my word against theirs. The Harrison family versus the troubled daughter. Then my phone buzzed. It was Emma's mother, Caroline. Check your email, the text said. I opened it to find a video file. It was from the lake house, taken on Caroline's phone. She'd been recording Emma singing, but in the background, clear as day, was the staircase. The video showed Tyler blocking my path, showed him shoving me, showed me falling. Everything. Emma remembered I was recording her, Caroline's next text read. We have proof. The video changed everything. Within hours of Caroline sending it to the police, Tyler's charges were upgraded from simple assault to aggravated assault. The prosecutor, a woman named Amanda Washington with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit, came to see me personally. This video, combined with your medical records and testimony, makes a very strong case, she explained. But I need to be honest with you. Your family has money. They've hired David Kramer, who's very good at what he does. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly, I said, a wry smile touching my lips. Amanda smiled slightly. Fair point. Tyler's been released on bail with conditions. No contact with you. He can't come within 500 feet of you, and he has to surrender his passport. My parents posted his bail within an hour of his arrest. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. The next few days brought a media storm. Somehow, the story had leaked. College student arrested for assaulting sister made the local news, then spread to social media. Tyler's fraternity suspended him pending investigation. His college announced they were reviewing his enrollment status. Robert and Jennifer fought back in the court of public opinion. They gave an interview to a local morning show, Jennifer dabbing at her eyes with a tissue as she described me as a troubled teen who had always resented her successful brother. We've tried so hard with her, Jennifer said to the sympathetic host, her voice laced with false concern. Therapy, medication, special attention. But she's always been jealous of Tyler. And these injuries? The host asked carefully. She's always been accident-prone, Robert said smoothly. We have medical records going back years. Falls, bumps, bruises. We even had her tested for balance disorders. They were good. I had to admit that. They'd taken every injury Tyler had caused and spun it into evidence of my supposed clumsiness. But Amanda Washington was better. She released a statement with select portions of my medical records showing the pattern of injuries consistent with abuse, not accidents. She shared statistics about sibling abuse, how it was often overlooked and dismissed. And then, with my permission, she released a single still from Caroline's video, the moment of Tyler's hands on my shoulders, his face twisted in anger. Tyler's carefully crafted image crumbled overnight. His social media filled with comments calling him a monster. His fraternity officially expelled him. The college announced he was no longer welcome on campus, and Tyler, predictably, lashed out. Despite the restraining order, he found ways to get messages to me through mutual acquaintances. Asterisk, you've ruined my life. I hope you're happy. This is all your fault. Asterisk, but the most chilling message came through our cousin. Asterisk, she's lying about other things too. I never heard her before. This was the only time. Asterisk, that's when I made a decision. I started writing. I'd always kept journals, hidden in various places Tyler and my parents couldn't find them. Now, in the hospital, I began transcribing them, typing everything into my phone. Every incident, every injury, every dismissal, every excuse. September 15th, 2 years ago, Tyler pushed me into the pool fully clothed because I wouldn't give him my homework. When I couldn't swim properly in jeans and sneakers, he told Mom I jumped in to get attention. December 23rd, 3 years ago, he locked me in the basement storage room during Christmas dinner. 3 hours in the dark. When Dad finally found me, Tyler said we were playing hide-and-seek and I was too stupid to realize the game was over. March 4th. Broke my ribs wrestling. Mom said it was my fault for not being careful. I had to wrap them myself because they wouldn't take me to the doctor. Pages and pages of evidence, dated and detailed. Sarah Mitchell from CPS read through them with tears in her eyes. "This is systematic abuse," she said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "And systematic neglect from your parents." The prosecutor added the journals to evidence. The case was building. Meanwhile, I had been moved to the rehabilitation wing of the hospital. My spinal fracture was healing, but I needed intensive physical therapy to regain full mobility in my legs. The first time I stood up, supported by parallel bars, I cried, not from pain, but from sheer, overwhelming relief. "You're doing amazing," my physical therapist, Marcus, encouraged me. "Most people with your injury take weeks to get this far." "I'm motivated," I said through gritted teeth, taking another shaky step. "I can see that. Family visiting today?" "No," I said simply. Marcus didn't push, but I did have visitors. Caroline came every day with Emma, who drew colorful pictures for my room. Susan brought home-cooked meals, ignoring the angry texts from Jennifer calling her a traitor. Even Uncle Mark stopped by, awkwardly admitting he should have stood up to Robert years ago. "I was a coward," he said simply. "I'm sorry." A reporter from the Denver Post reached out, wanting to do a feature story on sibling abuse. After discussing it with Amanda, I agreed to an interview, my identity protected. The article, titled "The Hidden Epidemic: When Siblings Become Abusers," featured my story prominently. It talked about how sibling abuse was often dismissed as kids being kids, how parents often enabled it by refusing to see one child as capable of seriously hurting another. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people reached out with their own stories. I read them late at night, finding comfort in knowing I wasn't alone. But the Harrisons weren't giving up without a fight. David Kramer filed motion after motion. He argued the video was inadmissible because it was taken without Tyler's consent. He claimed my journals were creative writing exercises, not factual accounts. He brought in a medical expert who testified that my injuries could have resulted from a connective tissue disorder that caused easy bruising and fractures. "They're trying to gaslight the entire legal system," Amanda told me after a particularly frustrating hearing. But juries aren't stupid. They can see patterns. The trial date was set for 3 months out. Tyler remained free on bail, though his life had effectively imploded. He'd been kicked out of his apartment when his roommates learned about the charges. His girlfriend left him. His summer internship was rescinded. Robert and Jennifer sold their vacation home to pay for his legal defense. "Look what you've done to us," Jennifer said during what would be our last confrontation at the hospital. "We're selling everything. Your father's reputation is ruined. Tyler can't go back to school. Are you satisfied?" "I didn't do this," I said quietly, my voice devoid of emotion. "Tyler did this. You did this. Every time you looked away, every time you called me dramatic. Every time you chose him over me, you did this. We gave you everything." Jennifer exploded. "You gave me bruises and anxiety, and a brother who knew he could hurt me without consequences," I shot back, the anger finally breaking through. "That's what you gave me." The courtroom was smaller than I had expected. 3 months had passed since the fall, and I could walk now, though I still used a cane on bad days. Today was a bad day, but I refused to lean on it as I made my way to the witness stand. Tyler sat at the defense table in a suit that couldn't hide how much weight he'd lost, how hollow his face had become. My parents were behind him, Jennifer clutching Robert's hand like a lifeline. They wouldn't look at me. "State your name for the record," the clerk said. "Olivia Grace Harrison." Amanda Washington stood up, giving me an encouraging nod. Olivia, can you tell us about your relationship with your brother? For the next 2 hours, I spoke. I talked about the years of abuse, the constant fear, the way my parents had dismissed and diminished my pain. I kept my voice steady, even when describing the worst incidents, the ones that still haunted my nightmares. David Kramer's cross-examination was brutal. "Isn't it true you've been in therapy for depression?" he asked, his voice oily. "Yes," I replied, my gaze direct. "Because being abused is depressing. You kept journals, but you never told anyone what was allegedly happening." "I told my parents multiple times," I said, meeting his challenge. "They didn't believe me. Or perhaps these incidents didn't happen the way you remember them." "The MRI doesn't lie, Mr. Kramer. Neither does the video." He tried everything, suggesting I was jealous of Tyler's success, that I had a pattern of attention-seeking behavior, that my injuries were self-inflicted or accidental. But I had spent 3 months preparing for this with Amanda. I didn't waver. The prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. The video played on a large screen, Tyler's shove clear and deliberate. Medical experts explained how the pattern of injuries was consistent with long-term abuse. Sarah Mitchell testified about the toxic family dynamics she'd observed. Then came the surprise witness. The prosecution calls Madison Wells. I didn't recognize the name until a young woman took the stand. Then I gasped. Madison had been Tyler's girlfriend in high school. "Miss Wells," Amanda began. "You dated Tyler Harrison for how long?" 2 years. Junior and senior year. Why did the relationship end? Madison looked directly at Tyler, who suddenly seemed to shrink in his seat. He pushed me down a flight of stairs. The courtroom erupted. Jennifer actually screamed, "She's lying." The judge banged his gavel. "Order." Madison continued, her voice shaking but determined. "He said it was an accident." I believed him at first, but then I saw how he was with Olivia at a family dinner I attended. The way he accidentally hurt her. The way their parents ignored it. I realized what he'd done to me wasn't an accident either. "Did you report it?" Amanda asked. "No," Madison admitted, her voice full of regret. "I was 17. I was scared, and I saw how the Harrisons treated Olivia when she tried to speak up. I knew no one would believe me." Tyler's defense fell apart after that. 2 more ex-girlfriends came forward with similar stories. A teammate from high school testified about Tyler's violent temper. The pattern was undeniable. When Tyler took the stand in his own defense, he was a shadow of his former confident self. "It was just roughhousing," he insisted, his voice reedy. "Siblings fight. I never meant to really hurt her." "You never meant to break her ribs?" Amanda pressed. "Never meant to fracture her spine?" "I didn't know I was hurting her that badly." She screamed. She cried. "She begged you to stop, and you didn't know." Tyler's jaw clenched. "She's always been dramatic." Like Madison Wells was dramatic? Like Sarah Chin was dramatic? Like Rebecca Foster was dramatic? That's different. How is it different, Mr. Harrison? Tyler's composure finally cracked. Because Olivia knew how to push my buttons. She knew exactly what to say to make me angry. She wanted me to get in trouble. "So," Amanda said, her voice cutting through the silence like ice. "You're saying your 17-year-old sister deserved to have her spine fractured? I'm saying she's not innocent in this." The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Asterisk guilty of aggravated assault. Guilty of pattern of abuse. Guilty of violating the restraining order through third-party contact. Asterisk Tyler was sentenced to 2 years in prison and 5 years probation. He would have to register as a violent offender. His dreams of law school, of the successful future he'd always assumed was his, were over. Robert and Jennifer were charged with child neglect and endangerment. They received probation and were required to attend parenting classes and therapy. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. After the verdict, I stood in the courthouse hallway, leaning on my cane, exhausted but resolute. My parents walked past without a word, but Jennifer stopped at the last moment. "I hope you're happy," she said coldly, her eyes still burning with resentment. "I'm free," I replied, my voice calm. "That's enough." I went to live with Susan, who had already set up a room for me, painted in the soft blues and greens I loved. It wasn't perfect. Nightmares still woke me, and some days the trauma felt overwhelming. But I was in therapy again, real therapy this time, with a counselor who specialized in family abuse. 6 months later, I published an essay in the Washington Post titled "The Fall That Saved My Life." It went viral within hours. I received thousands of messages from other survivors, from parents who recognized warning signs they'd been ignoring, from siblings who realized they were being abused. I started speaking at schools and conferences about recognizing and reporting sibling abuse. I testified before a state legislative committee about the need for better protective laws. The physical therapy was grueling, but a year after the fall, I could walk without assistance. I'd never run marathons or play contact sports, but I could move freely without fear. I started college the following fall, majoring in social work with a minor in creative writing. My roommate asked about my scars once, and I told her simply, "My brother hurt me, but I survived." On the anniversary of the fall, I stood at the bottom of a different staircase, the one in my dorm. I looked up at it, remembering that moment of terror, that sensation of falling with no one to catch me. But I'd caught myself in the end. The MRI had revealed the truth, but I'd been the one brave enough to speak it. The fall hadn't broken me. It had finally given me the evidence I needed to break free. I climbed the stairs slowly but steadily. Each step a small victory. At the top, I looked back down. Just stairs, nothing more. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, now 10 and thriving. Asterisk saw your article in my teacher's class today. She says you're a hero. Asterisk I smiled, typing back, not a hero, just someone who finally told the truth. I walked to my room, past a group of students laughing in the hallway. One of them called out, "Hey, Olivia, study group tomorrow?" "I'll be there." I called back. I had friends now, real ones, people who knew my story and liked me anyway. Not in spite of my trauma, but because of the strength I'd shown in surviving it. That night, I opened my laptop and began writing. "Dear Tyler, asterisk this is the last thing I'll ever write about you. You took 17 years of my life, but you won't get a single day more. I don't forgive you. Forgiveness is mine to give or withhold, and I choose to withhold it. But I don't hate you either. Hate would mean you still have power over me, and you don't. Not anymore. I hope you learn from this. I hope you get help. I hope you never hurt anyone again. But mostly, I hope to never think of you after today. This is goodbye, asterisk your sister, former Olivia. I never sent it. Instead, I deleted it, closed my laptop, and pulled out my chemistry textbook. I had a test tomorrow, a life to live, a future to build. The MRI had shown the fractures in my bones, but it hadn't shown the strength that had always been there, waiting to heal, waiting to rise. And rise I did. Have you ever wondered how many clumsy kids are actually crying for help in plain sight, their truth buried under family secrets and perfect facades? Thanks for watching. Take care. Good luck.